what time it is? Woo! Get into it! Get into it! Yes! We're back with Storytime with Chris. That's all I have. The vocals. No, just kidding. That was awful. Sorry, y'all. I'm gonna turn this down. Oh gosh, I didn't realize I had it up that high. I don't own the music that you're listening to in the background, but hi, welcome to Storytime with Chris. I hope everybody's having a really good day. I just want to take a quick little moment to say thank you. Thank you to the universe. Thank you to all my wonderful friends and family. If any of you noticed, I recently posted a post where I was at the gym, and I meant it when I say that I've been working through my problems and doing self-love and growth and allowing myself to heal. Those things are very important, children. You should always take the time to acknowledge things that may not be okay, but also acknowledge people in your life that make the things that are not okay better by them being around. Let me break that down real quick. So that basically means surround yourself with friends, family, loved ones who make the bad days brighter, who make the awful days more beautiful, who make the stressful times weigh a lot less than what they did before. So, you know who you are. I love you and I thank you. I appreciate any type of love and consideration and help I ever get in my life, because it could be totally different. It could be totally different. So I just wanted to show my gratitude. Thank you. Hey, friend. Hi, Brenda. Oh, goodness. Have a sip of tea. All right. We are almost at the end of the book of 3. And like I said the last time, we have 4 of the books to read. So we are going to breeze through these fairly quickly. So we have 1 chapter left after this one, y'all. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and begin. Chapter 19. Sunlight streamed through the high window of a chamber pleasantly cool and fragrant. Taran blinked and tried to lift himself from the low, narrow couch. His head spun, his arms swathed in white linen throbbed painfully. Dry rushes covered the floor, the bright rays turned them yellow as wheat. Beside the couch, a white, sun-dabbled shape stirred and rose up. Henwin, wheezing and chuckling, grinned all over her round face. With a joyful grunt, she began nuzzling Taran's cheek. His mouth opened, but he could not speak. A silvery laugh rang from the corner of the chamber.
You should really see your expression. You look like a fish that's climbed into a bird's nest by accident.
Ilanwe rose from the ossuary stool.
I was hoping you'd wake up soon. You can't imagine how boring it is to sit and watch somebody sleep. It's like counting stones in a wall.
Where have they taken us? Is this a Nuven? Ilanwe laughed again and shook her head.
That's exactly the sort of question you might expect from an assistant pig keeper. A Nuven? Ugh, I wouldn't want to be there at all. Why must you always think of unpleasant things? I suppose it's because your wound probably did something to your head. You're looking a lot better now than you did then, though you still have that greenish-whitish color like a boiled leek.
Stop chattering and tell me where we are. Taran tried to roll from the couch, then sank back weakly and put a hand to his head.
You aren't supposed to get up yet,
Ilanwe cautioned,
but I imagine you've just discovered that for yourself.
Wriggling and grunting loudly, the delighted Henwin had began to climb onto the couch. Ilanwe snapped her fingers.
Stop that, Hen,
she ordered.
You know he is to be disturbed or upset, and especially not sat on.
The girl turned again to Taran.
We're in Cardathel, she said. It's a lovely place. Much nicer than Spiral Castle.
Taran started up once more as memories flooded over him. "The Horned King!" he cried. "What happened? Where is he?"
In a burrow, most likely, I should think.
"Is he dead?"
Naturally, answered the girl. You don't think he'd stand being put in a burrow if he weren't, do you? There wasn't a great deal left of him, but what there was got buried.
Aladwe shuddered.
Ooh, I think he was the most terrifying person I've ever met, and that includes Okren. He gave me a dreadful tossing about just before he was going to smite you.
He rubbed her head.
For the matter of that, you pulled away my sword rather roughly. I told you and told you not to draw it, but you wouldn't listen. That's what burned your arm.
Taran noticed the black scabbard of Dernwin no longer hung from Aladwe's shoulder. But then what?
It's lucky you went unconscious,
Aladwe continued.
You missed the worst of it. There was the earthquake and the Horned King burning until he just, well, broke apart. It still gives me bad dreams, even when I'm not asleep.
Taran gritted his teeth. Aladwe, he said at last, I want you to tell me very slowly and carefully what happened. If you don't, I'm going to be angry and you're going to be sorry.
How can I tell you everything?
Aladwe said, deliberately pronouncing every word and making extravagant grimaces as she did so.
If you don't want me to talk.
She shrugged.
Well, in any case, she resumed as her usual breathless rate, as soon as the army saw the Horned King was dead, they practically fell apart too. Not the same way, naturally. With them, it was more sort of running away, like a herd of rabbits. No, that isn't right, isn't it? But it was pitiful to see grown men so frightened. Of course, by that time, the Sons of Dawn had their chance to attack. You should have seen the golden banners, and such handsome warriors.
Aladwe sighed.
It was like, I don't even know what it was like.
And Henwin?
She hasn't stirred from this chamber ever since they brought you here,
said Aladwe.
Neither have I,
she added with a glance at Taran.
She's a very intelligent pig,
Aladwe went on.
Oh, she does get frightened and loses her head once in a while, I suppose, and she can be very stubborn when she wants. Which sometimes makes me wonder how much difference there is between pigs and the people who keep them. I'm not mentioning anyone in particular, you understand.
The door opposite Taran's couch opened part way. Around it appeared the spiky yellow head and pointed nose of Fluder Flam. So you're back with us, cried the bard. Or, as you might say, we're back with you. Gurgi and the dwarf, who had been standing behind the bard, now rushed in, despite Aladwe's protests. They crowded around Taran. Fluder and Dolly showed no sign of injury, but Gurgi's head was bound up and he moved with a limp.
Yes, yes, he cried. Gurgi fought his friend with slashings and gashings. What smartings! Fierce warriors struck him about his poor tender head. But valiant Gurgi does not flee. Oh, no.
Taran smiled at him, deeply touched. I'm sorry about your poor tender head, he said, putting a hand on Gurgi's shoulder, and that a friend should be wounded for my sake.
What joy, what clashings and smashings! Ferocious Gurgi fills wicked warriors with awful terror and outcries.
It's true, he said the bard. He was the bravest of us all, though my stubby friend here can do surprising things with an axe. Whew. Seems like everybody's doing well in the story. But we'll see how it all unfolds as we continue on. Dolly, for the first time, grinned. Never thought any of you had any mettle to show, he said, attempting to be gruff. Took you all for milksops at first. Deepest apologies, he added with a bow. We've held off the warband, Fluter said, until we were sure you were well away. Some of them should have occasion to think unkindly of us for a while to come. The bard's face lit up. There we were, he cried, fighting like madmen, hopelessly outnumbered. But a Flam never surrenders. I took on 3 at once, slash, thrust. Another seized me from behind, the wretched coward, but I flung him off. We disengaged them and made for Count Athel, chopping and hacking all the way, beset on all sides. Taran expected Fluter's harp strings to sunder at any moment. To his surprise, they held firm, so he was telling the truth. And so, Fluter concluded with a careful shrug, that was our part. Rather easy when you come down to it. I had no fear of things going badly, not for an instant. A string broke with a twang. Fluter bent down to Taran. Terrified, he whispered, absolutely green. Eilonwy seized the bard and thrust him toward the door.
Begone, she cried, all of you! You'll wear him out with your chatter.
The girl shoved Gurgi and the dwarf after Fluter.
And stay out! No one's to come in until I say they can.
Not even I? Taran started up at the familiar voice. Gwydion stood at the doorway. For a moment, Taran did not recognize him. Instead of the stained cloak and coarse jacket, Gwydion wore the shining raiment of a prince. His rich mantle hung in deep folds. On a chain at his throat gleamed a sun-shaped disk of gold. His green eyes shone with new depth and power. Taran saw him now as he had always imagined him. Heedless of his wounded arm, Taran sprang from the couch. The tall figure strode toward him. The authority of the warrior's bearing made Taran drop to one knee. Lord Gwydion, he murmured. That is no greeting from a friend to a friend, said Gwydion, gently raising Taran to his feet. It gives me more pleasure to remember an assistant beekeeper who feared I would poison him in the forest near Caer Dallben. After Spiral Castle, Taran stammered, I never thought to see you alive. He clasped Gwydion's hand and wept unashamedly. A little more alive than you are, Gwydion smiled. He helped Taran seat himself on the couch. But how did... Taran began, as he noticed a black and battered weapon at Gwydion's side. Gwydion saw the question on Taran's face. A gift, he said. A royal gift from a young lady.
I girded it on him myself, Eilonwy interrupted. She turned to Gwydion. I told him not to draw it, but he's impossibly stubborn.
Fortunately, you did not unsheath it entirely, Gwydion said to Taran. I fear the flame of Dyrnwyn would have been too great even for an assistant beekeeper.
It is a weapon of power, Eilonwy recognized.
Gwydion added, so ancient that I believe it no more than a legend. There are still deep secrets concerning Dyrnwyn, unknown even to the wisest. Its loss destroyed Spiral Castle and was a severe blow to Arorn. With a single firm gesture, Gwydion drew the blade and held it aloft. The weapon glittered blindingly. In fear and wonder, Taran shrank back, his wound throbbing anew. Gwydion quickly returned the blade to its scabbard.
As soon as I saw Lord Gwydion, Eilonwy put in with an admiring glance at him, I knew he was the one who should keep the sword. I must say I'm glad to have done with the clumsy thing.
Do stop interrupting, Taran cried. Let me find out what happened to my friend before you start babbling. I shall not weary you with the long tale, Gwydion said. You already know Arorn's threat had been turned aside. He may strike again, how or when no man can guess. But for the moment there is little fear. What of Ockren? Taran asked. And Spiral Castle? I was not in Spiral Castle when it crumbled, Gwydion said. Ockren took me from my cell and bound me to a horse. With Cauldronborn we rode to the castle of Oath Onieth. Oath Onieth? Questioned Taran. It's a stronghold of Anuvan, Gwydion said, not far from Spiral Castle, raised where Arorn held wider sway over Prydain. A place of death. Its walls were filled with human bones. I could foresee the torments Ockren had planned for me.
Yet before she thrust me into its dungeons, she gripped my arm.
Oh, excuse me, I thought that was Eilonwy talking. It's Gwydion still. Yet before she thrust me into her dungeons, she gripped my arm. Why do you choose death, Lord Gwydion, she cried, when I could offer you eternal life and power beyond the grasp of mortal minds? I ruled Prydain long before Arorn, Ockren told me, and it was I who made him king over Anuvan. It was I who gave him power, though he used it to betray me. But now, if you desire, you shall take your place on the high throne of Arorn himself and rule in his stead. Gladly will I overthrow Arorn, I answered, and I will use those powers to destroy you along with them. Raging, she cast me into the lowest dungeon. Gwydion said, I have never been closer to my death than in Oeth Anueth. How long I lay there I cannot be sure, Gwydion continued. In Oeth Onieth, time is not as you know it here. It is better that I do not speak of the torments Achren had devised. The worst were not of the body, but of the spirit, and of these the most painful was despair. Yet even in my deepest anguish, I clung to hope, for there is this about Oeth Anueth. If a man withstand it, even death will give up its secrets to him. I withstood it, Gwydion said quietly, and at the end much was revealed to me which before had been clouded. Of this, too, I shall not speak. It is enough for you to know that I understood the workings of life and death, of laughter and tears, endings and beginnings. I saw the truth of the world and knew no chains could hold me. My bounds were light as dreams, and at that moment the walls of my prison melted.
What became of Achren?
Eilonwy asked. I do not know, Gwydion said. I did not see her thereafter. For some days I lay concealed in the forest to heal the injuries of my body. Spiral Castle was in ruins when I returned to seek you, and there I mourned your death. As we mourned yours, Taran said. I set out for Cardathel again, Gwydion continued. For a time I followed the same path Fluter chose for you, though I did not cross the valley until much later. But then I outdistanced you a little. That day, a Gwythaith plunged from the sky and flew directly toward me. To my surprise, it neither attacked nor sped away after it seen me, but fluttered before me, crying strangely. The Gwythaith's language is no longer secret to me, nor is the speech of any living creature. And I understood a band of travelers were journeying from the hills nearby, and a white pig accompanied them. I hastened to retrace my steps. By then Henwin sensed I was close at hand. When she ran from you, Gwydion said to Taran, she ran not in terror, but to find me. What I learned from her was more important than I suspected, and I understood why Arorn's champion sought her so desperately. He too realized she knew the one thing that could destroy him. What was that? Taran asked urgently. She knew the Horned King's secret name. His name? Taran cried in astonishment. I never realized a name could be so powerful. Yes, Gwydion answered. Once you have courage to look upon evil, seeing it for what it is and naming it by its true name, it is powerless against you, and you can destroy it. I will repeat myself. Once you have courage to look upon evil, seeing it for what it is, and naming it by its true name, it is powerless against you, and you can destroy it. Yet with all my understanding, he said, reaching down and scratching the white pig's ear, I could not have discovered the Horned King's name without Henwin. Henwin told me the secret in the forest. I had no need of letter sticks or tomes of enchantment, for we could speak as one heart and mind to each other. The Gwythaith circling overhead led me to the Horned King. The rest, you know. Where is the Gwythaith now? Asked Taran. Gwydion shook his head. I do not know. But I doubt she will ever return to Anuvin, for Arorn would render her to pieces once he learned what she had done. I only know she has repaid your kindness in the fullest measure. Rest now, Gwydion said. Later we shall speak of happier things.
Lord Gwydion,
Eilonwy called as he rose to leave.
What was the Horned King's secret name?
Gwydion's lined face broke into a smile. It must remain a secret, he said, then patted the girl gently on the cheek. But I assure you, it was not half as pretty as your own. A few days afterward, when Taran had regained strength enough to walk unaided, Gwydion accompanied him through Cardathel. Standing high on a hill, the fortress alone was big enough to hold several Caerdalbans. Taran saw armorers' shops, stables for the steeds of warriors, breweries, weaving rooms, cottages clustered in the valleys below, and clear streams ran golden in the sunlight. Later, Gwydion summoned all the companions to the great hall of Caerdathel, and there, amid banners and hedges of spears, they received the gratitude of King Math, son of Mathanwi, ruler of the House of Dawn, the white-bearded monarch who looked as old as Dalman and as testy was even more talkative than Ilanwe. But when at last he had finished one of the longest speeches Taran had ever heard, the companions bowed, and a guard of honor bore King Math from the hall on a litter draped with a cloth of gold. As Taran and his friends were about to take their leave, Gwydion called to them. "These are small gifts for great valor," he said, "but it is in my power to bestow them, which I do with glad heart, and with hope that you will treasure them not so much for their value as for the sake of remembrance. To Flute Flam shall be given one harp string, though all his others break this forever hold, regardless of how many gallant extravagances he may put on, and its tone shall be the truest and most beautiful of all. To Dolly of the Fair Folk shall be granted the power of invisibility, so long as he chooses to retain it. To faithful and valiant Gurgi shall be given a wallet of food which shall always be full. Guarded well, it is one of the treasures of Prydain. To Ilanwe of the House of Lur shall be given a ring of gold set with a gem carved by the ancient craftsmen of the Fair Folk. It is precious, but to me her friendship is even more precious. And to Taran of Caerdalban, here," Gwydion paused, "the choice of his reward has been the most difficult of all." "I ask no reward," Taran said. "I want no friend to repay me for what I did willingly out of friendship and for my own honor." Gwydion smiled. "Taran of Caerdalban," he said, "you are still as touchy and headstrong as ever. Believe that I know what you yearn for in your heart. The dreams of heroism, of worth, and of achievement are noble ones. But you, not I, must make them come true. Ask me whatever else, and I shall grant it." Taran bowed his head. "In spite of all that has befallen me, I have come to love the valleys and mountains of your northern lands, but my thoughts have turned more and more to Caerdalban. I long to be home." Gwydion nodded. "So it shall be." And that is where we will end for tonight. So, as long as I get everything done that I need to get done for tomorrow, I will come back tomorrow night and read the last chapter so we can begin the new book on Monday, which I will go find that really quickly. I'll be right back, y'all. Hold on one second. Okay, hold on. So, if memory serves me correctly, the way the sequence of books go in the Prydain Chronicles, which, like I said, this is the Welsh equivalent of, I feel, this is my own personal opinion. I feel as though and you'll learn this as we read the stories, I feel that the Prydain Chronicles is just as magical and mind and thought-provoking and heartfelt and adventurous as The Lord of the Rings by J.R.R. Tolkien. This is a bit of a lighter read for younger people, so that's why I chose this. We will read The Hobbit, of course, at some point in time, because The Hobbit is one of my favorite books of all time. But the next book is going to be starring our wonderful hot-headed princess, Ilanwe, The Castle of Lur. And then after that is The Black Cauldron. And then unfortunately, I still have to buy the fourth book, which is Taran the Wanderer, which is more of an exclusive story of another journey that Taran goes on. And then, of course, the last book which is the High King. Lots of familiar faces, some not so familiar. But we'll get there. We will get there. I love you all so very much. I thank you all joining me for Storytime with Chris. I'll see y'all next time. Bye-bye now.